UK on Friday the 13th of July. The White House and Downing Street have said it will be his first visit to Britain since he was elected as US President in 2016. Theresa May's spokesman said he will hold bilateral talks with the Prime Minister, with further details to be announced in due course. Well, Mr. Trump's critics here in the UK are promising to stage large-scale protests over the visit, but what effect could that have on Britain's relationship with the United States? Let's talk to Guardian journalist Dawn Foster and journalist David Vance from Alt News Media. Hello to you both. Dawn Foster, to you first. Is the President welcome here?
I don't think he is. I think YouGov have done several polls and found that he is extraordinarily unpopular amongst the British people. So I think, you know, he is expecting protests and they will be widespread wherever he is. There was some talk at the beginning of trying to keep him outside of London, but I think the problem is that he's so unpopular, people will be very, very happy to follow him wherever he goes to voice their displeasure about his policies on immigration, about his, about the way he acts towards the rest of the world, and the fact that he just doesn't seem to have any kind of maturity about diplomacy.
David Vance, what kind of reception do you think President Trump will get?
Well, I mean, first of all, coming from The Guardian, what we've just heard doesn't surprise me. But here's a little reality check for Guardian journalists and the rest. President Trump is the leader of the world's biggest economy, of our biggest military ally. Now, only a fool, and that probably does include a section on the left, would think it's a good idea to alienate someone in such a powerful position, a position that in the post-Brexit world could be incredibly helpful to the United Kingdom. Now, I know the political left doesn't really do economics very well, but if they did, they would understand that welcoming the United States president is very much in the interests of the British people.
But what about the British people? Because 1.8 million people signed a petition against his visit, didn't they, David Vance? There was a debate in Parliament. Those voices are saying we don't want him here.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure who the we are. The last time I checked, the UK population was more than 1.8 million. But let's face it, if the political left want to have their little rallies to oppose the leader of the world's largest democracy, who, for example, just in your headlines, has had a tremendous result bringing peace to the Korean Peninsula. If they want to protest against him, fine. Let me assure you and your viewers, there will be plenty of us in London on July 13th to demonstrate a warm welcome to the democratically elected leader of the free world.
Dawn Foster, we need him, particularly post-Brexit, so shouldn't we be rolling out the red carpet for Donald Trump and welcoming him to this country?
The government will be doing that, but at the same time, I think it would be very, very strange if David felt that in a democracy you suppress people's voice and their right to protest. Obviously, Theresa May and her government will, will behave with the utmost respect towards him. She will be forging those links with him and talking about how Britain and the US can work together. But we are a democracy. A lot of people feel very unhappy about Donald Trump and about the way he's treating the American people. More people voted against Trump than for him, remember. And I think it would be very, very strange if, we didn't allow these protests. And I would be extraordinarily surprised if David does manage to outnumber the crowds against Donald Trump. But I'm sure that he's convinced he can do that. And I look forward to him doing so.
David?
Well, Dawn, the fact is that, mob rule is not necessarily the greatest arbitrator of what's best for a country. But on the fact of the matter, I would welcome anybody to make their protests, known. But you did mention, just very briefly there, the view of President Trump in the States. A couple of facts for you. US economy roaring, employment at an all-time high. I think maybe you're missing some of the fundamentals. British people care about their jobs, their future, and having a good relationship with President Trump is as helpful to the United Kingdom as the United States. It's kind of 101 stuff. I'm surprised you don't get that.
Dawn Foster, we've had visits to the United Kingdom from leaders with seriously questionable human rights records in the past. We've welcomed them. Doesn't the office of the President of the United States, whatever your politics are, whatever you think of the man himself, doesn't that deserve the respect of this country?
I'm not entirely sure that protesting doesn't involve respect. I think that we have to respect the view of the British people who oppose Trump. There's a lot of people in the US who oppose him. There have been lots of protests against him there. I think that we have to respect the fact that a lot of the British people feel very unhappy about what's going on in America. I don't agree that everything America does affects British jobs. What I do notice is that a lot of people from Britain, including a lot of my friends, are very, very worried about the fact they won't be able to visit their families anymore because of the immigration rules that Trump is trying to impose on people from certain countries. So I think that we have to, think about how it's going to affect the British people, also how we affect diplomacy everywhere. Donald Trump is very, very concerned about his personal popularity. So I think that protesting and saying that he isn't fully accepted here is perfectly within our human rights to do so. I'm sure that David will agree with me there.
David,
well, I think. Sorry, just to come in. I think actually, Dawn, you managed to avoid the question. The UK has welcomed individuals from some despotic regimes,
and it's protested against them every time.
But I can't remember the last time the Saudi princes came here. There were I can't remember the big street protests organised by your colleagues in the left. So it does seem
David, I'm sure you don't read The Guardian, but there were multiple articles about the Crown Saudi prince just a few weeks ago. I'm sure you don't read it, but there they were, and a lot of people did protest against him. I'm sorry you didn't see that.
And interestingly enough, still can't recall the large street protests against despots. But when it comes to the democratically elected president, which obviously you're still struggling with that concept, he won, Dawn. Clinton lost. And what you need to do, and the protesters need to do, is get a grip on reality and move on. Embrace the fact that whether you like it or not, we live in the era of Trump.
David, just one final thought from you. How will Donald Trump deal with the protests? He was due to visit earlier this year. He cancelled that visit. He used his displeasure over the position of the US Embassy as a reason for that. Many suspected it was because of the planned large-scale protests. He's thick-skinned, but he does like to be liked, doesn't he? So how will he deal with the protests?
I think we all like to be liked, so he's not exceptional in that regard. I think we'll be making it clear, and lots of us will be reaching out to those around the president to let him know that many people in the United Kingdom will welcome him, and he shouldn't pay attention to the hysteria from certain sections on the political left.
David Vance, Dawn Foster, that's all we've got time for, but thank you both very much for your views.